We don't call a roll with this, do we?
Yes,
But
yes.
do we call a roll?
Yes,
Oh,
we do.
Would you please call the roll?
Chair Carney,
Here.
Vice Chair Burns, Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Here.
and Commissioner Long.
Here.
Great. We are going to, we need an approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve? Wait, it's a workshop.
Well, it just said approval of the agenda. Chair asked for a
We don't-
motion and a second, and then Tracy calls roll. I can't, it's like a teleprompter, you know?
Just present it. It's okay. Like,
Are you sure?
it's usually the format we have, so.
Okay.
We just
don't
haven't done one in a
usually
long
do
time.
that
Anyway, we
on
have
our
a first
workshops.
and we have a second.
I'll be
Second.
the first, he can be the second.
Co-
Vice Chair Burns, Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
and Chair Carney.
Yes. Great. Now we have item 5A, a discussion of the West Atlantic Avenue Master Plan and Set Transformation Plan.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Renee Jadissing, Executive Director. So we've actually talked about this item a few times over the last few months about the update to the Set Transformation Plan, West Atlantic Redevelopment Plan. And we've discussed like having a steering committee or some kind of group to help us with the next step of the update. But I think based on some of the last discussions we've had in the meeting, it would be good to just kind of have a little regroup on where we are, how we got to here with the plan. For some background. So we put together a timeline. Basically, you'll see here, the Set Transformation Plan started in 2016 when a consultant was engaged for the update. And there were several things, I won't go through all of it, but between 2016 to 2020 is when the plan was finally adopted. But it was adopted with some modifications. Basically, the name was revised to say the West Atlantic Master Plan instead of the Set Transformation Plan. And there were also references taken out of the plan of the set. So in 2023, our board at the time suggested to update the plan to bring it back to the Set Transformation Plan, since this is what the original plan was called. So since then, we had workshops and we discussed it internally, but we haven't actually brought this to the board until now to discuss. So what we did since then is, here we go. We had a meeting to present this to the board to show the implementation plan updates. We also hired a consultant to upgrade demographics and economic data in the plan, but that's all we did. We don't have a consultant on board for any other planning functions and efforts. At the time when we went out for quotes, they were about $65,000 or over, which would require a formal bid process, but we weren't sure exactly where we were going with the update. So we started with demographics, which is what we have throughout this presentation. You'll see we asked them to update exactly the same graphics in the plan, because the idea is not to redo the plan at all. It's just to update because it started in 2016 and now, several years later. So you'll see there's several slides here that show the side by side of what was in the 2018-2020 adopted plan to what was changed for 2014. So again, it largely looks the same. It's just the data that was updated. So I'll flip through here. And you have a printed copy. It's available online at our website as well. Yeah, it's quite a few things that were changed, but there's a data economic report that's accompanying this document. It's about like 40 pages, I think, that we have separately available. We took that information and implemented into the plan. So what we also did through our exercise was look at the actual implementation plan. It's about 5 or 6 pages at the end of the plan, but it gives what should happen between 0 to 3 years. There's short-term, long-term goals throughout. So this was done before 2019, where the CRA statute changed. So we went in and made comments about what the CRA can and can't fund, because there were some things in here about trainings, branding events, wherever it included things that CRA probably can't fund at this point. We had a slide to update that on the side. And as you can see, there's many different parties involved. It's not just something the city or CRA is supposed to do. You'll see here there's police, block captains. I think there's even some private organizations, churches, community stakeholders. I believe Knight Foundation is in here, the school district, housing authority, land trust. So it's a collaborative plan where everyone coming together to implement this. So we just made notes, though, from the CRA's perspective, nobody else's, of what needs to be updated. And we have a separate document that comments on what we've done. That's not included in here, but we do have that available as well. So at this point, what we've looked for over a few months is like a steering committee or some kind of next steps on what to do. But I think at this point, it might be better to just do neighborhood outreach, which that was done when the plan was done originally. There was outreach to work the neighborhood of the Northwest Southwest Neighborhood Alliance, the city and CRA, and also the planning team. And this is from the plan. Block captains were asked to help distribute and gather information for residents to get everyone engaged. So instead of having dedicated individuals, I think that might be a better avenue for us to pursue. We can have group meetings where we can determine what needs to be updated because things have changed since when this plan was done. I've heard different community interests and wants. So we can update it. It's just a matter of what are we doing with it. And I think larger meetings would be helpful in that. So what we're proposing or asking if you all would want to do is we have some group meetings. If we need to hire a consultant, we can bring that back. But because we split it up, I don't think it's going to be as much because a lot of the data is updated. And if it's more of implementation plan and things like that, we can work with a consultant if we need to, or it's something that we can do. And maybe with the city, we have to get them involved as well. But I thought some public meetings would be a good way to keep this moving forward.
Do you want to comment?
I agree with public meetings.
You agree with what?
Having public meetings.
Yes, I agree with that. We should have public meetings.
I agree as well. And I also think we do need to reach out to that in that column where we talk about who's going to be financially responsible and make sure that we're still in the same place in terms of funding.
Yeah, because you took CRA out of a couple of them.
Yes, we did.
Which I know.
Well, and making sure those organizations are still. And also there may be other organizations because this document originated such a while ago.
Exactly, right. And yeah, there are certain things that definitely have changed, but things that have been done, because this references a lot of like infrastructure, West Atlantic development, which
Right.
there's things in planning in the works.
Things that we're doing.
Right, so there may be other things that instead of that, because it's already happening, that can be added as well. And we don't need a consultant to help us to adjust that. That's something that we can do
Right.
internally. But I think we need to hear largely from the public at large of what their interests are at this point.
Right.
Because I've made my things known about what I think about Atlantic Avenue. And
Yes.
because I view Atlantic Avenue, I mean, the rest of the set transportation plan, which is great, with dealing with the Northwest, Southwest, I think that there's some really great stuff in there. My whole thing was whether West Atlantic itself, which we're trying to brand separately as West Atlantic, needs to be kind of separate and apart from the rest of that plan.
Yes.
So that's something to be discussed.
So that's item number 2. So
Yeah.
item number 2 is going to drill down into West Atlantic more specifically.
Okay,
So we just
okay.
wanted to start with the broad plan
Okay.
about steps to move forward with the amendment and the update. The second item we have, so when we get there, it is discussing West Atlantic specifically.
Okay. Well, then you have.
We're ready? Okay.
Yeah, we've given you your
All right, so-
direction as to we want the. All
right, so we're gonna do that.
We're going to do the hearings.
Yes, and if we need a consultant, we'll come back and just update everyone about that. I doubt it'll be over the threshold, but I don't know if we'll even need to do that. But I'll make sure everyone's updated before we do anything and hire anyone.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so the next item is West Atlantic Avenue lot study presentation and discussion. So here are snippets from the West Atlantic redevelopment plan. So we wanted to pull this slide specifically, or these images specifically to show the plan itself. It's one West Atlantic. It's west and east, but it's all Atlantic Avenue. It's not really saying that West Atlantic is taken out from the rest of Atlantic Avenue. And even one of the community feedback, which is part of the plan, is that there should be no physical difference between East and West Atlantic. So it's not really trying to say Atlantic Avenue is something different. It's a neighborhood plan that happens to have West Atlantic in it, but not trying to say West Atlantic should be something different by the comments here. So I just thought it'd be important to show that as we're talking about where West Atlantic fits in. I think it fits in the entire thing. It's Atlantic Avenue, not one or the other. But this specific page was talking about development of city-owned properties fronting West Atlantic. So, and the community feedback was attracting neighborhood businesses. Again, the no physical difference between East and West Atlantic, creating opportunity for outdoor dining, develop West Atlantic to a pedestrian-friendly, and development on West Atlantic should be complementary to existing residential neighborhoods. So it kind of flows all into one. So to like separate or try to make any changes, I don't know if it would really be helpful or even needed just because of how it it flows. It really flows into commercial flowing with residential
Right.
into one. And on the side, you'll see in the purple, the implementation plan.
But to the mayor's point, and it's a good one, what he was saying in that meeting is that Atlantic, and you're saying it too, so we understand that we don't need to do additional work, because one of the conversations was, do we need to separate it out and have its own study, which would be unnecessary costs for the residents, because that presentation, which I already saw, kind of does it. It's pulling all of Atlantic together, and it isn't saying, your concern is that Atlantic shouldn't be considered the set, it should always be Atlantic.
Atlantic Avenue.
And I think I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So I think, but we get there through this.
Right, and I think it is in one, but it's just one of the images, but it doesn't like overlay the
Right.
set or anything on it. It's showing Atlantic Avenue. So everywhere in the plan where it's talking about West Atlantic, it's named West Atlantic Avenue. It doesn't take the name away.
Okay.
It's just saying how the commercial and the residential kind of coexist. So maybe later we do it at Atlantic Avenue. I'm not sure, but we have Jess here from Curry, Sowards, and Aguilar, who we'd hired last year to do a study of all the CRA properties and what could be developed on there. I know we've shown it individually to everyone. We've shown it at some of our socials, but we asked him to specifically look at our land because we own so much of it, to how it would look and what that continuous flow would be, because I think we're really going to be the ones to dictate what it looks like and what it is because of the ownership we have.
Right.
And we didn't need like a separate plan to do that. We can kind of use this opportunity now to help steer what that looks like. And I just wanted to show in the purple too, just to bring it all together. So in the set transformation West Atlantic master plan, part of the implementation is developing key sites on West Atlantic Avenue. So it's saying through public-private partnerships with CRA-owned lots on West Atlantic at the northwest, 6, 7, 800, all of our blocks basically, for uses identified in the West Atlantic needs assessment. And that is important because the next slide, we go to the West Atlantic needs assessment. This is snippets from that study that was done in 2012, but I guess it's still referenced. It hasn't been changed or anything at this point. But some of the general conclusions you'll see highlighted on the left was for supermarket, grocery store as its top 4 priorities: supermarket, grocery store, health, wellness, pharmacy, banking institution, entertainment cluster, hospitality, such as a theater, jazz club, or restaurants. So these are important because this is what we've been looking for and we've been talking about. So it helps to show where it's even coming from, was from this study in 2012.
The interesting thing, after you and I talked about this the other day, was we want Atlantic Avenue to be Atlantic Avenue, and on the previous slide or two, talked about things looking and feeling kind of the same. However, when I went home after our conversation, I thought more about this, and we don't have a supermarket or a grocery store on Atlantic Avenue. So that's diverging from a previous goal.
Right.
And I'll just put it out there. When Renee and I talked about it, I come out of the packaged goods industry, work for Procter & Gamble and Nielsen. I'm not so sure like a Publix is going to be interested. I would be willing to go talk to them because I speak their language, but I'm not 100% sure. Because when you look at their footprint around that, where we would put that store, they got stores within a mile or two. And the way the retailer is going to look at that is it's not going to be incremental. It's going to just be taking away from the stores to the left and the right. So the supermarket thing, I think, is going to require more thought. And when I thought about like a pharmacy, like a CVS or a Walgreens, they're going to think about the world the same way as Publix does. So I think we got some homework to do on that one to figure out what supermarket would go in there, what it would look like. Obviously there would be traffic implications for a supermarket. Not saying it's not doable, but just thinking that that's something that I think is going to require a little bit more thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I have long believed that we need that out in West Atlantic because
Yep.
if you go west of I-95, that's a different demographic. East of Swinton is a different demographic, and even north and south, but some blocks have different demographics. But a grocery store there and a pharmacy, I've always thought would be. I think that it would be a nice fit for the neighborhood. So I really think that's why when I always talk about taking Atlantic out and doing it, I want to focus on getting things done, and I don't like other parts of everybody's idea to get entangled with what we're going to do with Atlantic when there's so many other things we should be trying to implement as well.
Right.
So
Well, we'll keep going because there's still more to come on what both of you all are talking about. But
absolutely.
I know it's challenging. I know, Tom, it's going to be real challenging, but I think it can be done.
It's not challenging. We have Renee. Are you kidding?
you can do anything, right?
Right, we got Renee.
We can do anything.
I'll chime in just
And
in front
Jess,
of
I
the
mean,
topic.
he's got it's in living color, his plan.
can do
So there you go.
anything.
So,
Cross that off. Just cross that off over there.
so I think Commissioner Margaret, I agree with the traffic concern of having like a large scale grocery store that close to 95. I'm afraid it's going to pull people off 95 that are commuting after work, and it's going to create a nightmare. But I do think we need to have some kind of market there, some kind of food market there that serves that. It's a food desert, and we do have a Publix on North Federal. It's pretty close to downtown on that end of town. We need something that serves a community there. We just have to be aware of what the scale is and figure that out. I don't know if that's a Publix or what it is, but I do feel like we need to figure something out. There needs to be a solution to it, but I don't want to also create a problem while we're doing it. So I think we're having the right discussion around that.
And Rob, I just would say some of these retailers too, Publix I just may not be aware, they may have a small store format.
Right.
And
Right.
we haven't explored that.
That maybe is the move or something akin to that. And then the other thing is just about whether we sort of bifurcate the plan and have a separate plan for West Atlantic Avenue. I kind of like the way it's set up now. To me, the set is the set. And
Wait,
just
what do you mean bifurcate it and have a separate
I mean,
plan? This
well,
is West Atlantic.
the West Atlantic we were talking earlier about having a West Atlantic plan and a set plan and separating it into a separate plan. Did we not bring that up earlier in the
I
presentation?
said
But I think
I'd
this
like
is
to
all
carve
that.
out Atlantic.
Yeah,
from-
right. And so I want to discuss that for a minute because we just talked about it. I don't frankly think we should carve it out, in my opinion. As it stands now in the plan, I think it needs to be looked at holistically, not how it is now. I think how the community is developed around Atlantic is extremely important, and that needs to be taken into account. I'm afraid if we have a separate sort of development strategy for Atlantic, the community voice could be left out of it. To me, the set is the set that just happens to have West Atlantic going through it, and that's how we should be looking at it. And it doesn't mean we can't take other things into account, and obviously we understand that West Atlantic, right on Atlantic, is different than areas that are a few streets off, but I do think we need to look at it holistically the way that it's set up in the plan now. That's kind of, I just wanted to go over that real quick.
I think this representation is going to be the plan in action. And this has been in the making for, what, I want to say almost 10 years or something, right?
Since I left the last.
No, I mean, so
Right,
here
and
we
I'm
are.
advocating
This
to
is-
keep it the way it is. That's
we
what I'm
have,
saying.
this gentleman is going to present the plan.
Yeah. So this is we hired Jess's team last year because we started to say, well, why don't we start looking at what we can do here instead of like a developer just saying we're going to give you a million different things. We have the LDRs, we know what the code will allow, we know what our land is. We can just start making ideas and change it as we go. So when we're ready to put out a bid, we could say, well, we know we would like this look. We know we want sidewalks this way. We know we want certain elements here, and they can beat it or better or something different, but at least we have a knowledge base on our own. But this incorporates everything, so it's hard to read. It's in the backup, but basically Jess can go over the whole entire thing, but this is going from Swinton to 95 on CRA lots of what we could do. So every little sketch there is something that we own. So I'll let Jess go ahead.
Pull this over to me?
Yep,
Okay.
go ahead. I'm sitting back.
All right. First of all, I feel honored to be sitting here. I feel like one of the staff. How does this happen, So cool. Great seat. Anyway.
That person usually gets yelled at a lot.
And that's why I'm probably
It's
here,
got the
right?
ejector. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Yeah, we need to have plexiglass here or something. I don't know. Anyway, just like Renee said, we started on this about a year or so ago. And just taking a look at the vacant properties that the CRA owns and how can they be redeveloped or be developed. And the reason why it's so sketchy is because it's free thought. This is simple kind of line work to scale, what can fit. And as you know, most developments are based on parking. So it's a direct relationship between what can we put in, what can we park. So a lot of this developed, especially with the 600, 700, 800 blocks. What can we park, and then what can, what can fit in there based upon what we can park. So we ended up doing like 4 different options for the 600 block, 700 block, and 800 block. One with the retail or grocery on one block. On the 800 block, we put it over on the 600 block. We kind of looked at all those different options. And the main thing was really trying to bury a parking garage. We need a parking garage to fill all the program that we need. And so the parking garages are pretty basic and not but we ringed them with residential as best as we could. The other thing that this plan shows, and as we were working on these blocks specifically, question came about the police station. What does the police station? Can it go on 600 block? Can it go on 700 block? Can it go on 800 block? And so we did a little freehand study on those. As a result of doing that, it could fit on the 600 block, or it was the 800 block. It could fit there, but not very well. The issue is it's a 150,000 square foot facility with almost 400 parking car garage, pretty substantial. That's when I started thinking, well, why can't we fit it on the existing site? And so you can see there on that, beside the courthouse, we were able to fit in a parking garage, a 3-story police station without interrupting the existing operations for the police. Also, as a result, there was land left over that we could fit the fire station headquarters and rebuild that. So now we've got a contiguous municipal community facilities block, 2 blocks, combined with the courthouse. And that opens up the 5th Avenue, that we can redevelop all of 5th Avenue where the northwest corner, where the fire station is, and do a mixed-use development there. In that way, I think that's kind of the big story here. And that leaves our 600, 700, 800 block up for redevelopment, if you want to go to those, Renee. Any questions on this?
No, I think, yeah.
I think we had consensus on this plan before, didn't we? I think everyone was pretty excited about that plan.
Yeah, there was a workshop for the police fire station, yes.
Yeah.
But it included some of this, but we're doing, I guess now in our at our meeting
That was
here.
the one you did last year, like November or whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah, I thought it was.
I'm just making sure we're talking about the same.
Yes, same, exactly.
Yeah, it was
yes,
well
yes.
received by, I think, it
Yeah,
makes a lot
I
of sense
think
to
it's
have a
great.
complex of, like,
Yeah, I thought it was a win-win situation
great
because,
strategy.
we want to redevelop for mixed use, et cetera. So these are just a close-up of those 3 blocks. What's cross-hatched in the purple are existing buildings, existing hotel. The section down there below the hotel is another CRA-owned property. We could fit some townhomes there. Across the street's the container project. So this was just one of many kind of free thinking kind of concepts. The other one was, and this takes a lot of discussion, is to what do we do with the streetscape, and how do we want to improve any of the substandard or perceived substandard situations that we have in East Atlantic? How can it's an opportunity to make those better. With the new land development regulations, we have the courtyards, the corner courtyards, the linear greens. So those are opportunities as we could begin to, in the ground spatial relationship, resculpt West Atlantic to a better situation, a pedestrian-friendly situation. So I think those are things that I think Commission, Council needs to look at and think about as that develops forward. Then on to any questions with that?
that just years ago, the discussion was all 3 of those would try to go into one package. What you're suggesting, I think, is that each one of those blocks would be handled separately for separate kind of redevelopment.
In my opinion, I think communities evolve, and I think they're more successful instead of having major chunks being developed by one developer or by one architect.
Yeah.
There, you get that variety, you get that sense
Yeah,
of
that's what I thought you were
evolution.
suggesting. That just was yeah.
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 I agree.
So that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Right. So next, so what you were speaking about the pharmacy and the grocery store, we also through this studying asked Jess to start looking at like radiuses to see how many banks are in different areas from our West Atlantic. What's the radius maps? So there's a couple here that we have for banks, pharmacies, and grocery stores and small markets that I can let Jess kind of like walk through. But this was also part of it because I think we need to start looking at what do we want to do. So when we do go out to bid, even if it's separate blocks, we can say we again want the large sidewalks. We want this here. We have the elements that we can bring in, but it doesn't have to be you have to build this specific thing. They can bring their own flair to it, but we are going in with what we want. Similarly, we can look at the banking and the other industries to see what's out there, what we can start drumming up interest. This is what we'll talk about later, but I'll have Jess kind of walk through these slides here.
Yeah, we have we created 4 slides, images of the town area from the beach all the way to Military Trail. So we've got the banks, we've got pharmacies, we've got supermarkets, and smaller food marts, if you will. So what you see on the right side is a radius map of representing a half-mile radius, and on the left side is a 1-mile radius. And so the concentration, the interesting takeaway on this for me was that the concentration for banks are all along Federal Highway.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of interesting when we put this together, how all this was just naturally created. And then the next one was the pharmacies. So the pharmacies are a little bit more spread out, but it kind of makes sense but it's still a north-south direction. So we got Congress Avenue, Military, and Federal Highway. Nothing really in the east-west direction. The supermarket's a little bit harder to read because of the color. But here the takeaway is most of the supermarkets are located on Linton Boulevard. Now this one's an east-west direction, interesting enough. And then there's that little cluster up around Lake Ida. And it was like Bednar's is shown on this slide, for instance. It's like, does Bednar's classify as a supermarket, as a local market, et cetera? So we were thinking like anything 5,000 square feet and under would be a smaller kind of food market. So I thought this was kind of interesting in that how those were clustered. And then, of course, the major intersections along Military. And then the smaller, and look at this, the smaller one, they are clustered a little bit on East Atlantic or West Atlantic, and some other in the little local neighborhoods.
So this
Interesting how this is already developed this way.
Would this include convenience stores?
It did not include 7-Elevens.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's smaller meat markets
Yep.
and the little specialty markets.
Okay. So no
Yep.
Wawas or
No Wawas,
Okay.
none of that, none of those. But they were more ethnic kind of food stores, etc. It was an interesting graphic, and that we learned something from. Hopefully, you do too.
But one of the things that I've always thought of in terms of why a grocery store is a proper grocery store. It may be a smaller, grocery store, but a kind of a fully, fledged grocery store, is that when people get off I-95 to go home and you live in the northwest, southwest neighborhoods, you either have to go west or all the way east.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And people love to go to the grocery store on the way home, and that's it. And it's something that I believe. That's why I really think I think it would be used.
There's too many folks live there in that area of the city for there not to be a convenient grocery
Agreed.
store. And those little markets, I don't think cut it. We need to find something that's more substantial than that, let's be honest.
Well, I agree. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, that's so I'm here to listen. Okay.
All right. So, this I think was helpful for all of us to see and kind of take that broken up approach and step by step instead of putting it all into one RFP. So what we thought as a possible next step, so that we do have some forward progress, that we could either issue a RFQ for a commercial real estate broker. I know the city used to have someone that they worked with, but I don't think they have that contract anymore. But we could find somebody or several people that specifically specialize in supermarkets, pharmacies, and banks, and show them all of our land and just start saying, is there any interest here? Because maybe there could be a smaller parcel somewhere else where if a bank wants to come, they would be more interested in something else, not the 600, 700, 800 block. Because I think all the pressure has been always put to put everything on those blocks. And it just puts so much on that, and you see where we are right now. So this way, we're kind of flipping it around again by our design going ahead. But then also, we can just go to people too and ask, are you interested? Is this something? And just so that they know it's that whether it's a yes or no, we'll have a little bit more interest, or just put together some marketing materials that we can put out and say, hey, these things are available, and start getting that out there in the world. And because people have called us one-off, like developers and different things, but we could actually go to these companies too. We don't have to wait for some large-scale thing to happen. We can go to these banks and these pharmacies and see, is this something they'd be interested in?
I mean, the only synergy is like when grocery stores are moving into an area, they usually they have a firm, a consulting firm or a real estate firm. And so the benefit of going to them is maybe that firm has, they know, geez, I know someone,
Right.
And as I said, they don't have to be, you want them in proximity.
Right.
So I always think it's better to have somebody in between, that's their job.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful.
And there's a lot of consolidation going on in the supermarket business at the moment. A lot of people wanting to move to Florida. You're reading that all the time. So
Yeah, I just thought it'd be so that we have a representative for us instead of just kind of like holding out for the big
I think
build.
it's great. I think we need to proceed. We've been talking about this for so long. I want to just start moving.
Yes.
And I'm not so worried about the traffic because I'm not pulling off the highway to go to a grocery store that's not near my house. You kind of go, you find the store that's on your route and you go. And also, Atlantic is TCEA, Transportation Concurrency Exception Area. So even if we have, we're not going to, we have traffic on Atlantic. We don't have it on West Atlantic, but we have it on East Atlantic. And I don't think this situation is going to be problematic. So I'm not looking to go out for another study. I would like to proceed. That's my
So
feeling.
you're looking for our guidance, should you go out for an RFQ or not? To start
Well,
the
yeah,
process?
just to
'Cause
be
I
if you're
think we need to
supportive.
start the process.
Then we'll start it up.
Start it.
That
Go.
will do that. Not for building, we're just looking for interest and getting the word.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Don't turn down building if it comes drops
Well,
on your lap.
I'll
but
tell
I'm
them
just saying.
We're always open for that. But no, this is just to get that interest specifically from those industries, those supermarkets, pharmacies, and banks. Because those were in the West Atlantic assessment.
Are we moving in the correct direction or do we need to revisit? Because if nobody's interested, then obviously we're not going in the right direction.
Right, exactly. And if they are, once we have a bid, we can go,
What-
or we can do a smaller parcel if they're interested. There's a lot of interest for some reason on some other side block.
Right.
Great, then we can
Well, hopefully it's going to
proceed.
trigger a lot of other economic development.
Everything.
That's the whole idea of doing this.
Right, exactly. And so the drawing that Jess did, I think the grocery or the big box was like, what, 25,000?
25,000.
It was big. It was built
Yeah.
for a large, like a full-size supermarket.
What
but
did we
if
put in the RFP? 30?
It
like
was
30?
25.
Okay.
Yeah, we built it around that 25,000 square foot store. But maybe, again, we don't need that. And that, again, alleviates the pressure on the 600, 700, 800 block.
Well, you had that Publix on Federal Highway North and the 400, 500 block. That's a small Publix.
Yeah.
Right,
That's a small
Yeah,
store.
it is.
But it's got
Fully
everything.
stacked. I'm there all the time.
right.
So I think something that size would probably make sense. But yeah, I agree.
Great.
Otherwise, we're just talking hypotheticals. Let's see what actually the
Yeah.
market will support.
Exactly. A lot of talking. So I think
I
it's
know.
time to
Not enough
start.
time, yeah.
Action.
Yes.
Renee.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay.
No, 4C.
Yes.
It's 5C. You got to do this 4C.
Oh, messed that up. Sorry. It is 5C. So this is also in our theme of discussing the West Atlantic. So we have been in design for commercial, or sorry,
Thank
mixed
you,
use.
Jess.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you, Jess.
thank you so
Yes.
much. Very exciting.
Yes. Oh, and just for people here, we have the actual drawings out here. We have it at our CRA office. We've also had them at our CRA socials over the last few months to year. But if anybody here would like to see it up in close detail, just reach out to us and we can have you come by. Okay. So switching over. So the Northwest 600 block. So we started developing, this goes back many years, but we started developing townhouses and a mixed-use design for the Northwest 600 block. This is where William Hatcher's Hatcher Construction Building is located, but I just thought it'd be helpful here to give a little bit of history because it has been a while of acquiring different properties and why we are where we are at this point. So again, we always reference the Set Transformation West Atlantic plan and also our redevelopment plan, but talks about housing. This is downtown / West Atlantic housing is where we're pulling this from. But just a little bit of background, you can see the properties that we had to rezone here in the hatched red at the bottom. They were not zoned commercial, so part of this process was to go through and do that so that they are all commercially zoned properties. There was also a height limitation put onto this property for 3 stories because it is going into the residential neighborhood. Although we wouldn't have proposed to put like this huge 4-story thing, I think the city wanted to put that requirement there in case anyone else comes in and wants to do this for other parcels, that if you do try to do that, you'll have that limitation as well. So you're not building the big 4-story buildings. So here's where we started originally. So we only owned like 4 parcels. You can see it at the side here in green. We only owned these 4. Atlantic Avenue would be down here. This is an alley. William Hatcher's building would be on this side. But this is going back to 2020. So what we had proposed was like a small small commercial area because William Hatcher's building was commercial. This would be a small, pretty much commercial community with all these little buildings, and you'll see parking. This was the original idea. So as we progressed, we were able to buy the pieces that you see in red over here in 2022. So that also changed our idea because now we have more complete blocks and it's not so spread out. At this point, we're only missing this little piece here that says privately owned. That's the only one we don't own. So now we have this parcel, these 2 in red, these 2 in green, there's the alley, and then we own these 2 in the back, and then we have this parcel here. So when we did that, we kind of shifted the development to more of a mixed use so that we'd be more housing with a commercial element because we have more land that we can build on. We're turning it over here. You guys can start.
So our architect, Moshe Laniato from Sinalofsky, Romanek & Say, is here to discuss our initial, I guess, concept. This is the first time anybody's seeing it publicly. And we were going through the design process with Moshe and sitting with him, and then going through our CRA redevelopment plan, the set transformation plan, and the West Atlantic needs assessment. And given that this set of property is right off of Atlantic Avenue and right before the beginning of substantial single-family residential, we wanted to create something that was a transition, a buffer between the main commercial corridor, transitioning into a mixed use, and then going into single-family residential. And we also wanted to keep with the concept that, this is West Atlantic Avenue. This design is seen east of Swinton, but not really seen west of Swinton. So create a mix of housing. So like Jess mentioned earlier, that it's organic, it's different developers or different builders have touched the neighborhood. So it's not all the same type of architect style or home style. And so now he'll walk you through what we are presenting you for the first time.
Okay, thanks. I'm really excited to be able to present this for the first time. This project is really, it's an opportunity to have, like, I would say, a mid-scale neighborhood level intervention that that provides affordable housing and at the same time also helps to sort of implement the plans that are already sort of in the works in different zoning strategies and other planning strategies that are in the city of Delray Beach, we have an opportunity to implement it here in a way that it's not really been done in the West Atlantic neighborhood. So, essentially, what we're proposing is that we are able to create a series of townhomes, and each townhome is each lot is fee simple in the sense that the owner comes, and part of what they get is a pretty typical but very nicely designed 2-story townhome. Together with that, it also comes, every home comes with a garage, a private courtyard, and an accessory dwelling unit. Yeah, that's the best place to take a look at it. You can see the...
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Yeah, you can see the townhome towards the faces Northwest 7th. And then we are also developing the alleys, which today the right-of-way exists for those alleys, but they are underutilized. It's an infrastructure that I think that for many generations people didn't really know how to use them, and so what we're able to do with the alleys is to bring the cars and all of that sort of vehicle traffic towards the back. All the service side sort of goes to the back side of the home, and then we have a garage that is accessible from the alley, and above the garage is an accessory dwelling unit where the main family lives in the townhome, and they could have their their young son who just came back from college can go and live there. They could potentially have a mother-in-law or father-in-law or whatever it is, or even they could rent out that accessory dwelling unit separately to help support the income of the person, the primary dweller in the townhome. And so it's something that we're really excited for. The style is really looking at an Anglo-Caribbean style, which is, from an architectural standpoint, there's a lot of details that touch on and sort of remind us of kind of the neighborhood and the climate that we live in over here in Florida. And each townhome there, that's a perfect image to see. You have 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths for the primary dwelling unit. Then you have a secondary bedroom and little kitchenette in the accessory dwelling unit. And then the fun part over here is the courtyard, which is a private courtyard. Every family gets their own little space that they share with the accessory dwelling unit. And you have your own outdoor space that other developments that have access for the vehicles from the rear a lot of times end up losing that outdoor space, which is, it's almost like, if you're in Florida, you might as well take advantage of some of that private outdoor space as well.
I'm just going to flash through some. This is a basic layout of the concept right now. I'm going to flash through some renderings that better give an idea of the architectural design and that we are envisioning, and then what it would look like on the ground as you're walking through the townhomes and then the courtyard and between the ADU and the primary unit. So this is an aerial of what it could potentially look like. So you'll see that on this side this is Atlantic Avenue right here. And primarily the townhomes would be on Northwest 7th, and then we have a set that faces Northwest 1st Street. Those 3 lots are currently zoned single-family residential. So as we move through this process, if this is the concept that the community and the board is embracing, then we would have to move forward with applications to rezone those 3 lots. However, if it's not something that the board or the community embraces to rezone those 3 lots, we would propose 2 single-family homes on those 2 lots that are facing Northwest 1st. The commercial unit, though we don't have great renderings of it right now, is that green building right here that faces Northwest 6th Avenue. It's right off the alley. It will have its own dedicated parking, and it would be a office, retail, commercial space that we would maintain ownership of at this time and lease out, as we do with the other CRA-owned commercial spaces. So this is the street level of the front of the townhomes.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, very, very nice design.
They're great.
And then the back off the alley, you'll see right now 2 parking spaces in the driveway, and then 1 car garage, and then a gated entrance into the courtyard. And you'll see in the courtyard area here, it's a dedicated entrance to the unit above the garage, and then the back entrance into the primary unit. So then these would be the next steps. We would seek community input, provide these renderings and the layouts for the public to provide us input, feedback at our next CRA social, which is at the Edmund Baines Building at 98 Northwest 5th Avenue, which is being held December 5th. And then after December outreach, we would prepare to start moving forward with any city approvals that would be needed for this project, and then gather funding to eventually put it out for construction, or bid for construction.
Could I ask a question?
You may.
So, I'm sorry, because I was looking at it and I wasn't doing the math in my head. How many units could you put on it if you left it as is versus what we get at the end of this?
Let me just go back
To
to,
the
one of
plat.
the first
Yeah. Thank you.
drawings. I think this one might be bad. So if we, without the parcel that is currently still privately owned, right now the drawings are proposing 13 units.
It's amazing.
And then if you count the ADUs as an additional unit that could be rented out to another family or another couple or another individual, it is 26 units potentially.
What is the rate going to be for these units? Have we thought about that, or we're not there yet?
We haven't.
We're not there yet. I
Yeah.
think we'll end up, we want to make these townhouses for sale. So however that looks, we'll have to figure it out. But I mean, I'm assuming we'll probably end up selling it at a loss. I'll just be very transparent, just because we want it for
Yeah.
affordable housing, which is fine.
Right.
That's our purpose. We're not trying to
And that's the
make a
point I was
dollar.
trying to make. I was curious what AMI we're going to, and I think lower is.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely go the under 180,
Yeah.
more like that range for these units. I just wanted to comment with the ADU. So, there's also an ADU study going on in the City
Yes.
of Development Services. We actually met with them yesterday. So the ADU study would need to happen for this to happen, but they also let us know that we could build these because it's commercial. So the ADU unit would be like a separate unit. So it could go forward as a separate unit, not as an ADU. But we'll figure it out. Like, that's all, because we still have time to go through site plan approval for this. But we are looking at this site as like a test study for the ADU, because we actually worked some of the numbers in the study that wouldn't be allowable for what we're doing. Of how the study is written. So it's actually good that these things are happening simultaneously, so that the study can help. Well, this will help dictate the study as what you realistically can build. Another comment with the rezoning, there may be an issue there because the properties on First are residential, not commercial. And there is some guidance in plans and things that say that you don't want to have that commercial facing the residential. So there may be a challenge on that part of it, but we'd have to go to City Commission for the final determination. That was just what we talked about yesterday as staff. And if we do have to change that, we'll just convert those to 2 houses and not have the 3. So we'll lose 1 unit there. And if we are able to acquire the piece in the middle there that's missing, that'll add in 2 more townhouses. So we'll kind of can make it up there, which we are working on that. So
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing.
That would seem to help the development overall if you get those extra 2 units.
Right.
yes, we're trying.
I know you are.
Yes. Very diligently.
This
So-
is great work. I really support the ADU concept. I think that's the direction we should try and head if possible. I mean, I think it's huge. That's something the community's been asking for a long time. It aligns with our plan that we've set into motion a long time ago. So this would be a great place to test that out.
And I just wanted to add that the alley that's currently in this block is part of the Northwest Infrastructure Improvement Project. It's in phase 2. So we would actually take it out of phase 2 and move it as part of our project here. So it does allow the townhomes to have that alley access and the improvements for that entire block sooner than is planned for with the Northwest project. So we are working closely with the city, and Moshe has also as well. And we do have preliminary designs for the alley improvements and the sidewalk improvements. So we are incorporating it as part of our design and taking that out of Northwest and moving it up a couple years.
Great. Let's keep it moving. I'm excited about this.
That's great.
So today we're just looking for the board's input, or if you want to let us know later if you have any comments about it. But and also with the community members as well, we want to make sure that there's community input. So we will have this available at our office if you want to come by or schedule separate meetings. But our socials, always a great place to have outreach and share information about this, so that this will be there for input. But after that, we do want to get into the site plan process if we can, unless there's like some major issue that happens along the way. We do plan to have the December social and then go right into site plans. I think Moshe's pretty much ready to go for site plan
That's
approval.
great news.
And
I want to hear from the community, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
But otherwise, I feel pretty good about moving.
I like the design. I think it looks good. I mean, I hope you get that other parcel.
Me too.
But I don't want not getting it to slow up the project.
That's what we're trying to balance the two.
That's right. And I'm saying, that's right. If we don't get it, we don't get it. That's
Well,
what I'm saying.
originally-
I don't want it to slow up the process.
Right.
I mean,
Originally, we didn't have very many, as you saw. We only had 3 lots. So we tried to like make it work with the 3. But now that when we bought the remaining, and we have pretty much enough to do quite a nice development there, we started with the planning process. But it did take some time with the acquisition. So
at this point, I would just continue with your project. Let them come to you if they want to get to that. I wouldn't even, just let's get it built.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna keep going. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Moshe.
Moshe, anything else? You're all okay. Are we finished?
We are for now. We regroup at 4.